Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining I-NERGY's first webinar on how to apply to our open call for up to 50,000 euros equity-free funding and a 6-month support program. I think we should start right away. We have a lot to tell you. Next slide, please, Laura. So my name is Thomas Wilczek. I'm project manager at Funding Box for I-NERGY, and I'm here with Vangelis Karakolis from I-NERGY's coordinator ICCS. Hello, Vangelis. Good to have you. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. That's great.
Hello from me as well. Thank you, Thomas. I'm Vangelis Karakolis, and I am glad to present you the I-NERGY project. I lead the work package for the analytics and AI services of I-NERGY on behalf of ICCS. Next slide, please, Laura.
Thank you. Yes, so we are also joined by our colleague Laura from the Funding Box team, who will be managing the chat, especially during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Laura, also good to have you. Please give us some housekeeping elements. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I will be managing some details of the webinar and organization. So just to let you know that this webinar is going to be recorded and that we will share with you the video recording and the presentation after the webinar. At the same time, you may post your questions during the webinar, and we will reserve a Q&A slot at the end. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Next slide. So let me quickly give you an overview of the webinar, actually. So in the first part, Vangelis will present you the I-NERGY project in detail, because any good application requires context, right, and background information about the project, the vision, the motivation, the goals. So Vangelis will give you a good overview of that, and of course of the technical scope and the outlook. And then there will be a second part where I will give you a detailed overview, sorry, of the currently running open call and give you some tips on what to take into account when writing an application, etc. And last but not least, we will have a 15-minute Q&A where you can pose all your questions, and we hope we can resolve any doubts. So Vangelis, over to you for the first part. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Thomas, once again. Yeah, a few project facts about the I-NERGY project. So its full title is I-NERGY, Artificial Intelligence for Next Generation Energy. It started in the beginning of 2021, and its duration is 3 years. So we are approaching the end of the first year. The coordinator is the Institute of Communication and Computer Systems, ICCS, from Athens. I represent ICCS in this webinar. The project is funded through European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. Its budget is around 5 million euros. While the grant agreement number can be viewed in the bottom right of these slides. Next slide, please. All right, a few words about I-NERGY Consortium, who we are. It consists of 17 partners from 9 countries. 7 of them are leading research and academic institutions, SMEs, and large ICT companies with leading expertise on AI, ICT, and data in the energy sector. Also, there is funding box, which offers cascade funding to startups and SMEs. While there are 9 EPES stakeholders covering the full energy value chain, from power network operators, including TSO and DSO companies, to energy suppliers, to aggregators and energy cooperatives, to power market actors, ESCOs, financing institutions, as well as energy agencies and policymakers. Namely, some of the partners are Ardinester from Lisbon, Cartif, Veolia and FAEN from Spain, RWTH and DFKI from Germany, Engineering, ASM and BFP from Italy, FBA funding box from Poland, REA from Latvia, ICCS, Chiron and Parity from Greece, ZESCOP from Croatia, Consensus and SONSE from Slovenia. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. Now, the motivation for I-NERGY project. Artificial intelligence is bound to revolutionize the energy sector through faster and more accurate forecasts, through demand and supply predictions, grid flexibility, optimized network operation, and optimized asset maintenance. Next slide, please. Moreover, the AI proliferation in the energy sector holds the premise for a larger environmental and social impact, aiming at the decentralization, democratization, and digitalization of energy, along with environmental sustainability, the alleviation of energy poverty, as well as fighting against climate change and environmental degradation. Next slide, please. All right, the vision of I-NERGY in this context is to deliver an energy-specific open modular framework for supporting AI on demand in the energy sector, based on state-of-the-art AI and data technologies, focusing mostly on energy commodities networks, on distributed energy resources, as well as on energy efficiency and non-energy related services. Next slide. All right, now the AI on-demand platform for Europe is the AI for EU platform. You can see the link in the top of the page. AI for EU is the European AI on-demand platform. It is a one-stop shop for anyone looking for AI knowledge, technology, tools, services, and experts. However, this is also bi-directional. So one can also publish data, AI models and tools and services, etc. to AI for EU. Next slide, please. Yes, I-NERGY project aims, one of its goals is to reinforce AI for EU platform. This is the case also for several other projects that are included in the ICT 49 clusters. Namely, these projects are AI for Copernicus, AI Plan for EU, DIH AI, BONSAPS, and Stairway. Next slide, please. All right, the relation, the connection of I-NERGY to AI for EU platform includes the publication of I-NERGY assets that I-NERGY assets are APIs, AI as a service APIs that will be that are developed and will be developed in the context of I-NERGY projects, as well as code, libraries, notebooks, Docker containers, data sets, applications and dashboards, machine learning models, etc. These assets will be developed both in the context of I-NERGY project from technical partners and tested on real pilot cases, as well as will be developed in the context of the open calls. We plan to publish some of them or most as many as possible to AI4EU, which provides the AI catalog, which enables the publication of several such assets. And there is a dedicated section for the I-NERGY project. And also there is the AI4EU experiments, which enables deploying, which enables publishing basically APIs through onboarding to AI4EU experiments. Next slide, please. All right, regarding the pilots of I-NERGY project, the overall I-NERGY service analytics framework will be applied, implemented, demonstrated, and validated in real-life pilots in 9 pilot hubs and 15 use cases, 2 testbed facilities and digital twins, and across 8 countries. More specifically, Ardinester from Portugal is a TSO. Veolia from Spain is an ESCO and the district heating facility manager company. FAEN from Spain as well is an energy agency and policymakers. ASM from Italy acts as a DSO and a market operator. BFP is an energy market actor. Iron is an energy supplier, while Parity is the technical partner that supports their activities. Zeskop from Croatia is an energy cooperative. Sonce from Slovenia is an energy supplier, as well as RIA from Latvia, who is an energy agency and acts also as a fund. Next slide, please. Now let's dive deeper to the more technical aspect of the I-NERGY project. Here you can see an overview of the conceptual architecture of I-NERGY and also its relation with AI4EU. So in the bottom layer, you can see the data management services. These are facilitated through technologies like Apache NiFi, Apache Kafka, MongoDB. Such services have to do with data ingestion, data harmonization, interoperability, services, etc. One layer up, you can see it's mostly dedicated on energy analytics and AI services of I-NERGY. In the right side, there are some tools like the model serving framework, the model evaluation, the AI model storage, incremental distributed self-learning, and transfer learning as well, that facilitate the development of and the deployment and the implementation of the end user services, which are presented in the left side of this layer. So energy analytics services include AI as a service APIs such as predictive maintenance services, energy flexibility forecasting, and also load forecasting, demand response services, and probably, hopefully, in the future, some services from the open calls. It also includes complete applications such as digital twins for distributed energy resources coordination, digital twins for energy communities, and also visual analytics services and other applications from open calls. Regarding the infrastructure of this technical solution, we are examining the possibility of taking some resources from EGIA's project, for example, VMs, GPUs, and in general, computational resources. EGIA is a project that has exactly this purpose. Also, the data that will be derived from I-NERGY project, some of them at least, will be published to GAIX hubs, to GAIX hubs. On top of these services, there is the identity and access, the security and access control layer, which restricts the access to all services and data, and verifies that only users that have permissions to access the data or the requested services will do so. And of course, the I-NERGY assets that were mentioned earlier as well will be published to AI4EU catalog and AI4EU experiments in order to benefit the whole EPES community. They will be available both as services through AI4EU experiments, and also as libraries, documentation, etc., through AI catalog of AI4EU. Next slide, please. Yeah, some I-NERGY services, as I already mentioned, are energy load forecasting, predictive maintenance, operation planning, digital twin for distributed energy resources, digital twin for electrical communities, energy flexibility forecasting, anomaly detection in cities and patterns from smart meters, energy efficiency action plans evaluation and prioritization, decision support, forecasting changes in solar radiation, etc. And that's all from my side. Thank you. And now I pass the floor to Thomas to continue with the open calls. Thank you very much. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vangelis. Very interesting. We see you again in the Q&A in a second. Okay, so hello again for those who have connected a little bit afterwards to the webinar. My name is Thomas Wilczek, and I'm project manager at Funding Box for the I-NERGY project. Our main role as consortium partner in the project is that of a cascade funding expert. So we run and organize the 2 open calls, and we manage the FSTP delivery, FSTP for financial support to third parties. And we do that during the 2 corresponding technical transfer programs that are related to the open calls. Overall, as you can see here, I-NERGY is set out to fund 25 bottom-up projects with up to 2 million euros of FSTP funding. That's in the overall project. Next slide, please. Anyway, here you can see a simplified outline of the 2 planned open calls to join our technical transfer programs. Our focus today, as you well know, is on the first open call, that has been launched on the 8th of November and will be running until the 20th of January. We are aiming to select 10 proposals for a 6-month program, and these 10 proposals will receive each one up to 50,000 euros in FSTP funding and additional mentoring services. Next slide, please. Yeah, that was the first open call. Yeah, next slide, thanks. So let me point out 3 crucial elements. So the main goal of the open call, why is this happening? And also the acceleration of the 10 projects that we will select is to, as Vangelis already said, to enrich the AI resources with the results of the open call. The AI resources and tools catalog for energy on the AI on-demand platform. And although the open call eligibility criteria allows for a wider range, if you would have to describe an ideal candidate, it would be, as you can see here, a startup, so a micro SME. We are always mentioning SMEs. Of course, there are different sizes. So our ideal candidate would be a small one, very innovative, but that has been registered as an SME in not later than the 2nd of November this year. In one of the outlined countries, you have links here to the lists of the European Commission, the eligible countries, and its use case should be according to the scope that we have outlined, of course, and should be using own resources, and should have an initial technical readiness level of 3. That is sort of a spotlight on our ideal candidate. Of course, the range is much wider, as I earlier said. Evidence for the technical readiness level and the scope could be provided, or we would appreciate it via GitHub or similar, just so we can see that there is already some expertise and some code. In any case, all this information, you can find it with far more detail in the guide for applicants. I will come to that in a second. Which is the scope of the open call? Well, in summary, it is to develop building blocks and applications for new AI algorithms or services and small-scale experiments to address the development and implementation of technology and systems applicable to specific cross-sectorial challenges within the energy sector. Specific cross-sectorial challenges, what do we mean by that? Next slide. So any application should address one or several of the outlined challenges here on the right within the 6 areas of experimentation that you can see here on the left. Again, there's more detailed explanation in the guide for applicants for each one of those. You can see at the bottom of the challenges box that an open innovation challenge has been included. This is aimed at covering any, let's say, out-of-the-box challenges. So we are very keen on innovation, and we have this space prepared for it. Next slide, please. So a bit more detail about the benefits you are applying for. If you apply to the open call, there is a 6-month mentoring program, as I said before, with up to 50,000 euros equity-free funding. I think for every startup that is very juicy. And if selected, those funds will be provided in the modality of cascade funding. So that means against previously set out milestones and KPIs. Imagine at the beginning of the program, you will create an individual mentoring plan, or IMP, with your mentor, with your assigned mentor, in which you will plan your activities, outline your activities, KPIs and results associated to the 2 payment milestones that you will then be evaluated by and judged by. So the deliverable 1 for 10,000 euros will have associated to it the individual mentoring plan, so that has to be ready and will be one part of your deliverable, let's say, and your proof of concept. And that would happen in the first half of the 6-month program. Deliverable 2, as you can see here, for 40,000 euros will have associated to it the final prototype, and that will be due towards the end of the program. The program itself will depend a lot on how the COVID situation progresses. The program at the moment is set up to be run, I would say, almost fully online, but of course that will depend, as we all know, before COVID and hopefully after, there will be a hybrid nature. By that I mean boot camps, networking events. All this at the moment is happening online, or will happen online, but it could also be possible that at some point we intend to include some physical elements there as well. That remains to be seen. Okay, next slide, please. Can you give another click to the slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So how do you apply to this open call? Well, as you can see here, this is the URL of the open call page. And you will find everything you need on that page. We have marked here precisely with the help desk tab, the documents tab, and the community tab. So we would encourage you to study the documents, the supporting documents, especially the guide for applicants and the frequently asked questions in depth. Join and explore the I-NERGY community, meet your peers there, get further information on I-NERGY and on the open call and on the whole ecosystem, and well, sign up to the open call application form by clicking apply now, which will take you to a form, and in there you will be able to insert your application by responding to different questions. Next slide, please. So the supporting documents, as you can see here, on the one hand, you have the guide for applicants. That's our Bible, I would say. Very important to know that in and out. Everything you need to know about the open call is in there. Frequently asked questions, supports, maybe some quick doubts that you have. And then there's also a template of the sub-grant agreement that, if selected, you would be signing with the I-NERGY consortium. So also a lot of very valuable information in that document. Next slide, please. How to apply, just a very quick run through. As mentioned before, log in or sign up, click on the apply button, start a new application. This is all very simple and straightforward. Fill out the application, submit your application. Yeah, well, that's what you say. Good luck. And next slide, please. Some tips here that you can find on the website about the application. Maybe just to point out one, you can start the application anytime and you can come back to it until the deadline on the 20th of January at 5 o'clock in the evening CET, afternoon, sorry, CET. So yeah, you can come back to it anytime until that moment, and after that there won't be any possibility to change it. So you can work on this quietly and with time. Don't worry about that. I would say that's the main tip, but we will come to more tips in a second anyway. Next slide, please. So what happens after the submission deadline? What is the actual evaluation process here? So just very quickly, so you understand, just to show you what the process is once you have made the proposal submission on the Funding Box platform, as I just quickly described. So Funding Box will firstly run an eligibility check of all proposals according to the eligibility criteria that we have outlined again in the guide for applicants. If we receive more than 55 applications, which we hope to do, an automatic pre-scoring process will be applied. That is based on the pre-scoring criteria, again outlined in the guide for applicants, which was specifically created by the I-NERGY Consortium. So we can find and pick out mostly or the most aligned applications to the I-NERGY project goals. Then the resulting 55 top applications that come out of that filter will pass on to the external evaluation phase, where each application will be assessed by 2 independent external evaluators who will be applying Horizon 2020 standard criteria like excellence, impact, and implementation. You can also find a lot more information about these 3 criteria and about the scoring in the guide for applicants. Then the outcome of this phase will leave us with 20 top applications, if everything goes well, up to 20, out of which the selection committee will select the best 10 applications to join the program. And this is then followed by an SME, a legal check, an SME check, an ethical check by an ethics committee, and finally the subgrant agreement signature between the consortium and the applicant, that subgrant agreement template that I showed you earlier. Next slide, please. Here, just very quickly, the timeline, so you can more or less see what we are aiming at. The submissions are running from, as you've seen, from the 8th of November to the 20th of January. Then we will go into the evaluation phase, which more or less will last 2 months, so until the end of March. And then we will have 1 month for the legal checks and the subgrant agreement signatures until the end of April. So we are aiming at the 1st of May, the very latest, to start the 6-month program. That is sort of the timeline that we are looking to have. Next slide, please. Now, this being a webinar, we would like to give you some tips, or shall we say a recipe for the writing of an outstanding application. Aside of having a great idea, the writing is quite important here. So let me run you through this recipe just very quickly. I hope this allows you, well, this gives you some good ideas. So recipe R, we start with the R for rationale behind the funding opportunity. So if we use the recipe or food analogy, this should be done in a slow cooking mode. So we would suggest you take your time and you really become an expert in understanding what the context of the open call is. try to read between the lines of all the open call documents, guide for applicants again, as I said, glossary, the project website, research the ecosystem, understand what is happening here exactly and what the goals are, what is behind the call, description, what activities would qualify for that financial support. Try to put yourself in the mindset of the consortium and of the evaluators who are looking for a winning concept. Take your time with this. Next slides. E for evaluator mode. So remember, being successful here and being selected means you need to convince the evaluators, of course, and you need to do that at all stages of the process. So they have to understand the rationale behind your proposal and decide if it fits the criteria of the open call or not. So you think about this when you structure your application. So it's not only about the content, it's about making it accessible and and about the style and the structure. Even if you have a great proposal and a great idea, if it's presented in an unclear way or language, it might not get far. You should take that, you should have that in mind. We have identified those in some cases. Think what can make life easier for the evaluator when understanding your proposal. That will probably help a lot. Next slide. Consortium team. Well, here our analogy doesn't fit completely. It will in the second open call, because there we will have consortia, so consortia will be eligible, not in this first one, but in any case, consortium or team, you need the right partners to succeed. When cooking a recipe and when being an entrepreneur or having a startup, we all know this. So in terms of designing your concept, it's always helpful to not forget about the greater view, the holistic view that integrates different insights and a variety of backgrounds, so science, industry, society, men, women, north, south, private, investors, large corporations, and small SMEs, public agencies. Try to create a holistic team that addresses all these elements. Next slide. I for innovation. Funny enough, this is a missing component in many proposals. And if funding for innovation is offered, innovation should definitely be a core ingredient in the recipe. So how do you contribute to go beyond the current status quo? What makes your approach unique or special? How will the effect of your innovation get sustained in time? So sustainability and impact is also always very important to point out. So these are critical questions you must respond with your application very convincingly, and yeah, stay away from personal claims, fuzzy buzzwords, opinions. Evaluators and consortium members will see right through you. They are expert in the field and in applications. So focus on demonstrating that you have a good understanding of what the tensions of the open call document highlights. You can solve the tension in a different way than what was proposed before by others, and make clear what works and what not. So in summary, show the evidence of why your project is innovative. Next slide, please. P for problem solving. So competing for funding is also a pitch competition in a way. So it's not only about your idea, it's also how you sell it. And that's for the best, because you will soon realize that fresh ideas are scarce, and that's not only you. So it's better to assume that other people had the same idea before or at the same time. So so it's not only about the ideas, but how they get implemented. Make that very clear, and focus your application on the problems you will solve. And that problem solving is based on logic, simplicity, passion, and knowledge. Yeah, next slide. The European dimension. So European Union funded projects are about putting Europe in a leading position in innovation. So it's about connecting the talent and capabilities across Europe to achieve this. So in some way or another, your project or your application should have a pan-European dimension. It should be clear from the very beginning that your proposal is not just good for your business organization, but also good for Europe. And this means that you have to demonstrate that you will be able to communicate to a larger European audience the results and benefits of the project for society as a whole, I would say. And this in energy is definitely something important, as we all see nowadays. But also for entrepreneurs that maybe come after you. So remember, this is also mentioned in the guide for applicants. We do encourage or prefer open source solutions. So yeah, that is on the E. Next slide, please. That's just a quick summary, or let's say a final touch here. I would say this is it's me. I have some technical issues here. Okay, so yeah, now I'm seeing you again. So next slide, please. Yeah, so just very quickly, some last summary. So use a clear language in order to simplify the evaluator's work. Include a list of acronyms and their descriptions. Highlight the crucial points of your proposal using bold and underline. So again, what I said earlier about structure and style, making this very easy to and very accessible. Structure the contents, make the connections to the evaluation criteria evident, and use graphics and diagrams, again, to simplify. At the end, when your application is ready, ask someone external to read your proposal and to give you honest feedback. That helps a lot. And allocate enough time to review your application before submitting it. And here the checklist would be, check the scientific content, management issues, the wording, again, simplicity, and your English. Of course, these applications are all, the official language of the project and the applications is English. And then lastly, submit on time, or just in case, finalize your application 1 or 2 days before the deadline. You have all the time in the world now to go back to your applications every day, but you wouldn't believe how many applicants suddenly get in touch half an hour after the application deadline because they want to change something when they already apparently had the application ready 2 days before. So take care of this, be ready some days earlier. The deadline is the deadline. We won't accept any changes or any applications after that. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this takes us to the Q&A. think we are pretty good on time. We said 15 minutes for the Q&A. This looks very good. In any case, if we cannot respond to your question, or if you don't have time to join the Q&A, please remember there's a help desk space and a help desk email. And also we will have a second webinar about a week before the final deadline of the open call, and that would be totally dedicated to Q&A. So it will be almost 1 hour Q&A session where you can pose any questions closer to the deadline. So Q&A, Laura, I hand back to you. I don't know if there are already some questions. If not, please feel free to post your questions in the chat room, and Vangelis and I will try to respond them.
Thank you very much, Thomas. We have some questions now. I'll go through the first question.
Okay.
So funding is described as up to X euro. When and how is the amount granted calculated or decided?
The amount calculated or decided, this is decided beforehand when writing the project. So these amounts are fixed. What now will have to be defined with you if you get selected is via the individual mentoring plan. What are you trying to build? If you're capable to build it, what you're with these amounts that you have to create a budget. That's also in the application. So you have to tell us, with this 50,000 euros, I'm building this, and I have these KPIs, and I will be able to have the proof of concept that will look this way and this way, so we can measure you, and then in the end, the prototype in the same way. So the payments, the amounts are fixed. It just depends if you reach the KPIs set out or not. I hope this responds to the question.
Thank you, Thomas. So we have another question. Can the evidence for the TRL T3 be a video or a GIF file explaining the functionality of the solution?
Sorry, Laura, I didn't hear you well at the beginning of the.
Yeah, I'll repeat. Thank you. Can the evidence for the TRL3 be a video or a GIF file explaining the functionality of the solution?
I think yes. When I mentioned the GitHub, this is not a must. It would be highly appreciated, of course, and we were talking about the ideal. But I think any proof is valid. I don't know, Vangelis, if that's okay for you as well.
Yeah, of course, any proof is valid, but yeah, GitHub is the global tool, let's say, to have also people evaluate the code and dive deeper in the implementation. But yeah, it's something. I don't know if this is enough, but if it is well explained and documented, I believe it is sufficient.
Thank you very much. So we have a third question. Should the applicants use their own data for training and evaluation, or the data will be provided for each challenge?
This is for me. No, actually, the data will not be provided. So users are, the applicants are encouraged to use their own data or find data sets online. Firstly, data from AI4EU are encouraged, first of all, but if they cannot find the data sets they're looking for, also publicly available data sets can do the job. So yeah, at least for the first open calls, no data will be provided.
Thank you very much, Vangelis. We have another question. In section 5, regarding implementation, subsection resources, it states that you have to make clear in the proposal that the solution you are proposing can be developed using your own technologies. How does the use of services and tools like AWS fit into this requirement?
So can you repeat, because it was too long, let's say. But if the question, yeah, please repeat. Go ahead.
So it provides that in section 5, that is regarding implementation, in the subsection resources, it states that you have to make clear in the proposal that the solution you are proposing can be developed using your own technologies. So the attendee asks, how does the use of services and tools like AWS fit into this requirement?
Well, actually, it is okay, because of course we appreciate more the open source technologies, but if we are talking about just hosting and deploying services or using open source tools from AWS that can later be open source, it is perfectly fine. Also, if there are, yeah, we encourage open source solutions, but if there is a case that it is extremely interesting and the solution is pretty good, then we will consider also this candidate. Thomas, what is your opinion?
I guess it will really be case by case. No, it will depend. As you already mentioned, open source is what we encourage. It might be possible for a certain amount of the code to go open source, and other areas to be closed. But that is very difficult to say now. It will depend on the case. So we are not completely close to the idea, but we do encourage open source, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question. Do we need a consortium, or can we apply as one company?
Could you repeat that, please? At the beginning, normally your volume is a bit low, Laura.
So the participant asked, do we need a consortium, or can we apply as a one company?
You only can apply as one SME in this first open call. Only a single applicant SME is eligible for this first open call. In the second open call, there will be the possibility for consortia to apply, but here it's only SME eligible.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question, do the applicants need to use any kind of tools developed in I-NERGY, or is it sufficient to address any of the challenges and sectors included in the guide for applicants?
Again, I lost the first part of your question.
Yeah.
I'll repeat. Do the applicants need to use any kind of tools developed in I-NERGY, or is it sufficient to address any of the challenges and sectors included in the guide for applicants?
No, there is no requirement to use tools from I-NERGY, and right now there are some machine learning models published in AI4EU catalog and experiments, but not much. So yeah, there is no such requirement.
Yeah, we encourage the use of own resources, as we also pointed out in the ideal candidate. There are, of course, resources on the AI on demand platform AI for EU, but I would rather say this is for inspiration more than anything else. So we do encourage own resources.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Another question. Can one applicant cover more than one challenges in the same proposal?
I believe yes, because we are talking about cross-sectorial challenges. So I believe that that yes, if it addresses different challenges within the same area of activity, then yes. Area of experimentation, sorry, then yes.
Yes, I totally agree.
I have a comment here. We didn't see any budget section in the application. Maybe we could provide some clarification there.
They didn't see any budget section in the application. Well, there are questions that that ask the applicant to describe how the applicant will use the funds in order to implement the project. So this is pretty much asking for or an orientative budget on how it's going to be implemented.
Thank you, Thomas. Another question, if we develop a project consisting in an AI-based module that may be part of our I-NERGY software as a service system under development, how will this be compatible with the exploitation via the AI for EU platform marketplace?
Well, AI for EU enables the publication of AI models in its catalog, and also through AI for EU experiments, you can publish as a service an AI model as a service. It also provides the ability to publish something as private. So yeah, there are several options for publishing to AI for EU platform. However, regarding the AI for EU experiments, in order to publish there are certain requirements, like the AI service should be Dockerized and should follow specific rules in order to be onboarded.
Another question, documents informal check when not in English. A formal or registered translation will be required?
Apologies. Could you repeat that again?
Don't worry, Thomas. I will repeat that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So documents informal check when not in English, a formal or registered translation will be required?
I believe yes. In the when the legal check is happening, yes, a formal check.
We still have more questions, but just 1 minute left. So I propose that we answer them in the help desk, if you agree.
Yes. Yes, that's okay. We will be in touch anyway after the webinar and send you the recording and the presentation with the links. But yeah, we will respond the remaining questions in the help desk space. Maybe next slide you can put, Laura, because there we have yeah, here we go. So at the bottom, you can see contact us. This is the I-NERGY.help@fundingbox.com. That's the help desk email. You can write us anytime here. And on the Funding Box platform, spaces.fundingbox.com/c/I-NERGY. That's the community, and in the community there's a help desk space where we will post the responses to your questions, so all the community can also benefit from that. And I would say it's 4 o'clock. Thanks a lot for joining us and for your interest in I-NERGY. Vangelis, thanks a lot for your technical input. Super interesting and important support here. Laura, thanks a lot for helping us with this. And to the audience, you have until the 20th of January to apply. You can see here the link to the open call. And yeah, we will be in touch, and please stay tuned. There will be a second webinar only dedicated to Q&A shortly, around a week before the end of the open call, so we can actually help you there to finalize your applications. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, thank you. And in general, this is the website URL of I-NERGY, the project. And if you want to find out anything about the project, from pilots to partners to press to open calls, motivation, it's all there. Community, it's all linked on that website. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.